Hey, good morning. Well, it's been a few days and we've had a chance to settle down and hopefully cool off a little bit, but we're on the backside of the first presidential debate. And it was an interesting thing. Most of the people that I know had a very visceral reaction to the 90-minute conversation that happened between our two presidential candidates the other night. I know folks that only made it a few minutes into the presentation before they had to turn it off. I know folks that uh, texted and tweeted and posted on social media about it, not only during, but the next evening and all the next day. Our news outlets have been weighing in on all of the very basic and elemental and just not knowing what to do with all of the emotions and all the thoughts. And the general sense seems to me to be a sense of anger, fear, and disgust, and some sadness too. Thinking about how we got to this point and how that this 90-minute conversation almost seemed to be inevitable. And in that great debate, it wasn't great. I mean, great in terms of big, not good. We kind of came up to almost a foregone conclusion. It was something that was predictable. And I believe it was predictable because the debate was actually a reflection of us over the last 8 or 10 years. As a country, as individuals, we have come to this place and kind of like concentrated orange juice, frozen orange juice coming out of the refrigerator. We've taken all the water out of the orange juice and put it back into that concentration, and that 90-minute conversation was the concentration of how we have been over the last years. The reason I'm saying it that way is because I'm asking you to put the political aspects out of it. Yes, they're important, but whether you're on the right or the left, the politics of it is important, but not as critical as the how we treat each other and the relationships, and how this is a mirror for how we see ourselves and how we see the people that we disagree with. The things that happened in that presentation in terms of how we talk to each other, how we treat each other, what we expect of other people is a reflection of the rest of us in the country. We've asked these two individuals to be our leaders, to represent us. Regardless of who wins, they represent us as a country. And coming into this conversation, they did not treat each other well. Doesn't matter who you agree or disagree with, the conversation didn't go well. And as a country, we were kind of disgusted and repulsed by that during and after. I'm offering to you the suggestion that the solution doesn't start with these two individuals. They represent us as a country. And that this bigger debate is actually about us as a whole country. And that obviously, if we're disgusted by what happened the other night during this debate, something has to change. And the something that has to change starts with me, and it starts with you. In order to have a different representation of who we are, we have to change ourselves. And the time to start that is right now. Please take the anger and the fear and the sadness and the disgust from what happened the other night and use it as motivation and energy to transform into doing things differently. Do you interrupt people when you talk? Do you actually pause to listen to what they say? Are you always looking for a snappy comeback, or are you actually trying to answer the question? Are you throwing negativity out on social media instead of actually trying to solve problems? Because all of us are doing that to some degree, and that's being concentrated and represented in those debates. My ask is to take some time, not just in the next week, but in the next months, and start to look at, are you able to change and shift and reduce the negativity that you're pumping out into the world? We're all doing it to some degree. If you're able to change, are you able to ask that of other people? Not asking them to do it first, but asking them to do it as you're doing it yourself. And if that change is able to start to happen, then we can ask for different representation of who our leaders are. But the change has to start with you and me. So I'm starting with me, and I'm asking you to start with you. What does it look like for you to do the opposite of what we saw the other night in the debate? For you to change the conversation and change the debate into something more productive and more healthy. It has to start with you and me. I would be happy to continue this conversation. I would happy to talk about what that might look like for you as an individual and things that you might be able to do to change that. I'm John Rhoads. This is Rhoads Life Coaching. I hope you're able to find purpose and meaning in daily life.